Okay, welcome to Holding Court. Today we have the one, the only Rebirth Mortal Comic here to talk about your inspirations, the future of your comic or comics, depending on what kind of ideas you like to implement, and just like a general chit chat, kind of like a get to know you a little better kind of thing. So thank you for coming
Yeah.
on.
Oh, no problem.
So, as far as your comic, what you've got it on with two platforms now.
Yeah, I have it on a website called Tapas, which is a webcomic website. It also does novels too, and of course I have it on Tumblr. So about two websites.
So you're covering all your little bases, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, have you considered going on DeviantArt, trying that site out?
Yeah, I might.
Okay. Well, it is free to use it. You might want to. Do you have a good spam blocker for?
No, but I'm pretty
Like,
sure I can find one. So
okay. Well, they've it's gotten worse over the years. Like I used to have what they call it. What do you premium membership? Now they call it the core membership, and it's I was given one free because they had one of those buy one get one free, and a friend of mine got one, and I was like, okay, that's nice. And there was no real benefits with it. There's a few, but nothing that's worth the cost. It's like $40 a month or $40 a year. Sorry, but it
oh,
doesn't
that's
really.
not bad.
It's not too bad, but it's good if you upload a bunch of pages at one time. But if you're doing like one page here, one page there, or uploading prose, it's not. I don't see it the kind of the worth. But
Yeah.
without paying for it, the ads get kind of like you'll get autoplay ads or you hear audio out of nowhere. So if you listen with headphones, like blow out your eardrums. uh, that's not good though. But so with the so with your comic, do you have any potential of spinning that out as far as like once you get say the are you going okay well first off are you going to plan it as a big arc like a ongoing story that has no uh kind of chapter breaks, or is it chapter broke is like chapter one, here's chapter two, or kind of like see where it goes, kind of leaving it up in the air, let your mind and creativity wander you.
It's probably the last one for me. Like whenever I try to plan stuff out, it never works. So I just like if my mind says that chapter one needs to end here, then
Mm,
I'm just gonna end chapter one there. It's
okay.
mostly like a wait and see type thing for me.
It's so kind of off the cuff, being like kind of spontaneous, keeping the storytelling spontaneous.
Yeah.
That sounds good. Like, you know what, that I know a lot of people, like I'm kind of the same way. I found out I was working on a project, and it was supposed to be this grand project, and because I was planning it out, it was because I took that spontaneity out of it, and so my enjoyment and my kind of the wonderment and drive to do it, because when I plan stuff out, it's like I'm already doing it, because you got to think, okay, how does this go here, here, there, and everything like that, instead of just doing it. Because I used to I still do them occasionally, but these do-it-yourself little mini comics, a lot of these short stories, a lot of them are between 4 and 16 pages, kind of a small format, but they're all off the top of my head. And I was kind of noticing that, like from because you're plotting it out, you're writing the story, and your artist. Who's your artist for your comic?
It's a guy named Louise Bonas.
Okay, and when you turn in your script, like do you do the full detail, like this is what every page needs to have, or do you kind of leave it kind of leave it a little open for interpretation, as long as the messages come, the message that you wrote comes across, like like you don't. Do you put a lot of the detail? Like there has to be a phone right here. The phone is off the hook. The phone is this kind of
Yeah.
phone.
I mean, I usually do have like a lot of detail.
Okay,
However, if my artist, like, did want to add something in, then 9 times out of 10, I'm going to be okay with that.
give them a little
So,
bit. You're not such
yeah,
a totalitarian when it comes to the art, or
yeah,
like that's actually a good thing because I've worked with people, or at least talked. I've not really. I've been more of a. Written some stories and done some thumbnails, and then had worked with an artist who illustrated it out. But mainly, I do write and illustrate my own stuff.
hmm,
And the artist I worked with, he was surprised that I was like, told him, I said, "Here's a script. If you can come up with something better, just run it by me, and I'll probably say, okay, let's roll with it. But just give me like a heads up if you're going to change anything drastically." We give him like give him some leeway.
right.
And I was just curious, like that's how you worked as well. But with the detail, because like I have a feeling like you plan this stuff out. Like do you visualize it in your head before putting it down on the paper, or is it just like you said, just flows out of your fingertips when you're writing it down?
Actually, it's a combination of both. Like, for me, it's odd, and it sounds like it. It sounds a bit crazy, but 9 times out of 10, I know that a particular panel has to come up if I see it in like a if I see it in like a dream or something. Even
Okay.
if it's just like one glance, then I know, okay, this is like the direction that I need to basically head off to. Then
So,
usually so far that has been like my main writing thing, I guess.
so are you driven by your dreams when it comes to writing the comic?
Yeah.
That is, are you a fan of David Lynch by any way, or have you ever watched anything directed by David Lynch?
Knowing me, I probably did and I did not know it.
Well, he did Twin Peaks, the TV show Twin Peaks. He did Dune, Lost Highway, Mulholland Drive, Elephant Man, Racerhead, Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, Straight Story, uh, Inland Empire, Lost Highway. That's the kind of stuff that he's done. You may have come across it, like I, or it could be just all off the top of your head. It kind of sounds like that. You taking dreams and actually translating them into stories. That's like I love that kind of story. I think that's what attracted me to your work, because when the work between you and your artist, you know, to actually that collaborative effort, it has that dreamlike quality, like this, not a nightmare, not some kind of like lovey dovey,
Huh.
la 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 thing, fairies and happy wonder, but it's like that dreamlike where it's
Yeah, if I ever did fairies, then it would be like some fucked up shit. So,
well,
yeah.
so this thing, you're so soft spoken, but I sense that kind of that not necessarily rage, but a it's like a brutality behind your presence, kind of like there's a like almost not necessarily like an H.R. Giger, but something is similar to that, where it's like, oh, it's like a kind of a non-threatening shell, but on the inside, just like tumultuous, horrific, kind of disturbing visage, like like Francis Bacon or something. Like it is really, really weird, disturbing images. But
Yeah, that definitely sounds like me.
I like that. It's like there's so many people that they kind of hide that part of themselves, or they suppress it. It's like, oh, that'll turn people off. And I'm like, no, just be yourself. Especially when you're being creative and you're expressing your creativity.
Right.
And like with with any projects you work on, because this is your first one, correct? Your first major one.
This is the first one that I've actually sent out to the that I've actually sent out to the public.
Hmm.
I have this one, and then I have another comic that I'm doing, which hopefully should be out sometime either in May or later on.
Okay. Well, so like, and could you reveal what that's about? Or you're just keeping that to yourself for right now, keeping it under under covers.
Yeah. So basically, my other comic, it has sort of this par it has this um super natural type feel to it,
Hmm.
where our main character is like the reincarnation of like the first human, and together with like him and the people um that he works for, they basically put they basically protect mankind from like these creatures like demons, fairies, stuff like that.
That's that's quite interesting. That's I look forward to seeing what you come up with how that shapes up as far as your the comic goes. Like that's yeah, that's interesting. I mean, uh, as far as as far as like your like seeing dreams, that's a important influence. Are there any movies, novel, comics, music even that you kind of go to or you can cite as a inspiration to what you do in the your work process?
Let's see now. I know one of them will probably have to be the Mister um the the Mister Miracle comic.
Okay,
That is like my go-to comic of when I can't think of anything, but like I can go back to issue one, and then after I read like this one issue, then bam, I could just go back and continue on my comic.
so it's the Tom
Also,
King, the Mitch Gerardus,
yes,
Miss Miracle.
yes,
Okay,
yes,
well, that like so that's kind of a touchstone for you, like where if you're feeling a little lost or something, or like maybe not necessarily lost, but like like there's a lull period, or you're feeling like I kind of need a bit of inspiration. You just go to that, and then you're right back to where you need to be, right?
yeah, and it's also another one called Death Note.
Ah, I know
Yeah,
Definitely. I
yes,
know.
it's like because it's like in my comic, like the main character is a guy who kills people, and in Death Note, the main character is like also a guy who kills people, and I put in an apple there just because like that's sort of like a Easter egg, if you will.
Okay.
So it's like, yeah,
Well, so like as far as clearly you don't shy away from the your comic has the death, nudity, stuff like that. This isn't some kind of, it doesn't shy away from any of that. It's adult themes without being just blatant, like exploitative, like just kind of lazy about it. That as far as storytelling from what I've seen,
yeah,
and with the way you tell your like the way you're telling me, like as far as like the content of your current and future endeavors, with it being like almost like it's a dreamlike, but as well as having this kind of supernatural bent to it as well. Because like I look at, even though it's not direct, but that it something is a little off here, that kind of thing. And
yeah.
like have you ever had, like, just kind of off the wall question, but have you ever had any supernatural encounters with things maybe you can't explain, or like deja vu or anything like that?
Well, I did used to sleep in a haunted basement, but after a while, me and the ghosts were like, eh, at one point.
Kind of came to a agreement then, I guess, kind of
Yeah,
a
yeah.
truce. I've seen some. I've worked at a place that many. Uh, there was a cemetery on the property where I worked at, and The cemetery went back to 1702. That was the first person buried there. So at least that many. It's probably people been there longer, but uh, the area it was haunted. It was a haunted place. We had a few spirits wandering in the facility. One of them in particular, I thought was a little girl. Turns out it was actually a dwarf. He was a 4 foot tall man. He was the son of a British ship captain, and he was a kind of self taught guy. He made his own clothes because they didn't sell clothes in his size, so he had to make his own. He played music and taught music, piano, and other stuff like that, and like accordion or what have you. So this is it was the very odd to like do research after the fact, because I'm like, oh, that sounds like a little girl, because there was like a high pitched voice laughing, so it was quite interesting. I've seen a lot of stuff I can't explain, and I I get it's kind of given up on trying to explain it, because that'll just consume your life if you like just kind of roll with it. I've never been scratched by ghosts, but I've known people that have encounters like that where they like encountered something and ended up with scratches on their arms out of nowhere. So I don't know. It's like maybe that was a poltergeist. I don't know, but it was kind of freaky, and that's why I stay out of those areas, because there was one house. A lady she was 8 months pregnant, 7 months pregnant, and she went near the fire. Her dress caught fire, but she didn't die outright. The house burned down. They got her out, but she stayed alive for a few more days after that. So like a tormented soul. And out at night, because it was there's a family cemetery, and where the house is maybe 80 to 100 yards away from the cemetery. And there used to be a lot more people. There used to be more houses out that way. There was like a little bit more. The land, this whole cleared out area, the family owned it, but eventually they sold some of it off over the years. And you would actually say, on like full moon, night of a full moon, you'd actually see her out there. I never saw her myself. I was out there a couple full moons just to let's just see what's what. Nothing. I saw nothing, but maybe because I was out there intentionally trying to find something, I didn't find it. So I don't know.
That's probably the main reason why you didn't find her.
Well, I do know a situation where a person was over there, and the grass was real high. But a truck had driven around the cemetery. There's a fence, driven around it, and the grass had almost like matted over because of the how high it was. And this person got trapped, and there was a fire, and the fire kind of got out of control because the grass was dry, and they fell, and they couldn't get up, and they were getting tangled up in the grass, and the fire went around them and didn't burn them, but burned everything else around them. And they were able to get untangled and jump out of the ring of fire. But there's no reason why that fire went around. But that woman who suffered and then eventually died from her injuries, she is buried there alongside with her stillborn child. So maybe it's like one of those, like, hey, like protecting people from being. I've never been burned out there, and there was incidents where I almost did burn myself because I was being really dumb trying to there was a tractor tire that had been left over there for many years, and I was trying to get the rubber and the tread off, and I was trying everything from hand saws to drills, and I said, hey, if I loosen it up and soften up the rubber with fire, it'll work. And I poured some gasoline and didn't realize I poured some on myself, on my boots, on my pants. And I set myself on fire, but no burns.
Wow.
My pants and my boots, they were messed up. But I didn't even have to put water. That was the craziest thing. It was like, it set on fire, but it went out. That's not supposed to happen. And I'm like, I can't explain it. My dad was there that day. It was the weirdest thing. So I'm thinking something might be going on. I don't know. I'm not gonna go out there and try it, because no, my luck is like, see, look, nothing will happen, and then something bad will happen. I'll end up being burned then. It's like one of those, not asking for help, you get it, but if you ask for help, you don't. But
yeah, pretty much.
It's really strange stuff out there. That's why I think there's a lot more stuff going on in this world that a lot of people they either ignore or they don't want to accept because they can't wrap their head around it. It's like hey, there's things going on. I can't do nothing about it. I just keep rolling. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, pretty much.
So you've been reading Mr. Miracle, the DC. I think that's like probably the hit comic at DC right now, as far as you know, as far as fan reaction as well. I mean, like the creative team, it's everything's being knocked out of the park. Anything else you're reading currently?
Let's see now. I'm reading White Knight. I need to get back into um Titans. I need it. There's like a lot of stuff that I basically need to catch up on, like Green Lantern, both of them. Most of the Batman comics. I'm probably gonna give Rogue and Gambit a chance. Thanos a chance. What else? Oh, Doom. Oh, Doomsday Clock. I need to catch up on that also.
Okay. Well, I know White Knight comes out. The new issue of White Knight comes out tomorrow, and I even though I did not like that first issue, really didn't like it, I'm glad it's doing well. I'm glad it's like just because I don't enjoy it doesn't mean I don't want anybody else to. There's a lot of people out there like that.
Yeah,
But,
I never got that.
there's these miserable people out there, and that's one thing. My interactions with people online, you included. There's a couple other people. It's like where it's like enough is enough. This is like we get it. It's like there's a lot of people that are miserable, and it's like they just don't want to drag people down. But you're out there creating. You're like you're when people complain about all these bad. You're actually making comics.
Yeah,
And that's like, and that is what should be celebrated. But instead, a lot of these people are still focused on the drama and the, like whether you know, you're on the left or you're on the right. It's all the same. Like same like you said earlier. It's like on Twitter. It's like the same same coin, just different side, and that's all it is.
because like to me, it's like okay, look, guys, the alt left and the alt right, they're the exact same thing.
Yeah.
The only difference is that one is like on side A and the other one is on side B, not knowing that yeah, you guys are like basically the same people.
There's a thing called the horseshoe theory where
Right.
if you look at the horseshoe, it's like you got the alt righters or whatever, and then you got the SJWs, and they're both against each other, but they both they make because there's some of them, not all of them. You have the pawns, and you have the
Right.
people higher ups that make money off of the outrage. Look at this person; he's against people of color and against trans people, this, that, whatever. Give me your money so I can fight these people. Hey, see this person? They're ruining this classic character because they want to do this to him, that to him. Give me your money. And that's the thing. They want their money. They want their power. While everybody else are kind of useful idiots. And then
Yeah,
here I am, like in the middle of it. It's like between it, like trying to be rational. If I have to be anywhere, try to be right there in the middle. But it's just it's dumb to see happen. But there's a lot of people, they get caught up in it, and so instead of coming up with solutions like you are by being productive and making something, and contributing to the storytelling medium, especially the comics medium, which people think, oh, comics are going to die. They can't. The industry may, but the media will not.
right.
It's like it's like somebody saying music will die. It's like music won't die. Now, distribution method maybe, but that's why you have like SoundCloud or iTunes and Amazon. But as far as record stores are pretty much non-existent unless you want to get vinyl, like old vinyl or new vinyl. But yeah, it's the dumbest thing. As even though it's like early stages, you've only been how when did the first page come out?
I believe sometime last month.
Okay, it's like I think it was like what the first or second week of last month. I think it
Yeah.
was like right after. Yeah, it was right after. I believe it was right the first week of that month. I believe. But the reason I ask is because eventually, do you plan on collecting it, like doing a print on demand or a offset printing, like kind of a collection? Eventually down the road, or are you just gonna just keep the digital?
I actually want to do both where it's online, but if you want to have a physical copy of it, then you can do that too.
Okay, giving
Uh,
giving the reader an option, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
and it's
I've seen.
like,
Oh, go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Oh, you go ahead.
All right, and it's after reading the comics, um, I believe that um that alternative will like probably be like a good fit for me
Hmm.
when it comes to this comic because it's like, you know what, I'm liking what you guys are doing. Peter himself seems like a really chill and cool guy, and it's like 9 times out of 10, the comic people that I do like, it's their personality that leads me to them.
Yeah, I agree fully because that right there, it's like I know people. I may like their art, but they're kind of. I'm not gonna say horrible people, but unpleasant.
They're a
Whether it's
lot
like,
nicer than me.
well, well, it's like,
Unpleasant.
well, no, I don't see you as unpleasant. I don't see that. But you get the. I mean, you don't even ever come across as unpleasant to me.
Oh,
But
thanks.
you're welcome. You're welcome. I mean, it's like, but there's people like they'll harp on. It's like me. Like there are certain things that are out of my control, and I try not to harp on them. Like I'll vent every now and then, or if I think it might be an interesting conversation starter or something like that. But you know, there's these people, whether it be you know, like Ron Mars and like your Dan Slots and that kind of stuff. These people, it's like I'm just trying examples. I'm not people I really enjoy their artwork, but because they're writers and not artists. But that kind of these people that put stuff out, it's like they harp on certain things, and it's like I'm glad I don't follow you, that kind of thing. But then
Well,
somebody
I
like Peter,
mean, Dan, I can't follow him because, well, I'm blocked, even though
uh,
I didn't say one word to him.
well, you probably he's one of the he's a very sensitive male, so he's got to protect himself.
I guess that he cannot handle seeing a strong woman who does not need him to white knight for me. But
If you want a white knight, you white knight yourself, right?
yeah, pretty much.
You'll pick up the sword, put down the visor, and start hacking away. Uh,
It's sad because I actually have like a couple of swords myself, so it's like, yeah, I
hell, what
I could
kind?
do that. I have a couple of katanas
All right. Do,
and
do,
like one um um anime type sword. So it's
okay.
like, yeah, I actually could write that myself. I,
What, white Ronin yourself, as it were, right?
yeah, pretty much.
It's coming in there. Whoever disagrees to me, then slaughter. I shall destroy you. Here's a choir. Um,
Yeah.
it's just bad. That was bad. But the with but with Peter, like in Alterna, like I, I shouldn't gush as much as I do but they're just such good people, and especially Peter is great. Terry Mayo is as well, uh, and it's like everybody I've interacted with has been good, has been nice. I've always agree with them. I don't, it's not like across the board. It's not one of these, but they haven't been hostile towards me. They haven't been dismissive, angry. Like they're good and decent people.
Right.
And they're coming from a good, they're coming from a a heartfelt and honest place. maybe, like I said, maybe it's a path I wouldn't choose, and maybe if I could impose my will upon another person, be like maybe they change it a little bit sometimes, like some of them. But I'm not going to do that to them. That's not who I am. That's not the kind of person. It's like I might think that, but it's like it'll never happen, and it'll just be a fruitless effort. Just kind of put them on the outs. But the like that with Alterna being a possibility as well, self-publishing. I've been talking to my friends Josh and Kat from Zero One Publishing, and they put out their own comics, and that right there, because Alterna still has to deal within the rules of the modern publishing game, but with your potential, with anything you do, you can directly market to your audience and do direct sales, where Diamond or working through somebody else, that not necessarily you have to give up creative freedom, but you have that potential of, well, it's not that high with Alterna, but some other publishers would possibly like, hey, we own this now, and it's like you've been working on it. It's like, because if somebody can screw you over, they will. That's the unfortunate thing about comics. Nobody wants to talk about. Look what happened to Walking Dead co-creator Tony Moore. Like, he got screwed until I think he had to sue Robert Kirkman because Charlie Adler took over. He's been the artist since issue 7 or 8 or whatever, and so he's been doing like every issue since, like almost 200 issues. But at the end of the day, that's all he's going to be known for. Hey, you're that Walking Dead guy, but he didn't even create it. He's just a work for hire artist.
Yeah.
But
I actually need to get back into the Walking Dead comics. Like, I stopped at issue 100.
Yeah, it's not that I wish I stopped right before 100. I kind of got, I think it was 93 or 94. And I was like, I don't see a point in this. There's nothing's really happening. It's like watching a soap opera, but having to pay like $3 a issue. And there was nothing happening in it. It wasn't like, if the issues were self-contained, like if there were some more self-contained stories or something, I would probably be more interested in it. Like like the Walking Dead universe kind of thing. Like, hey, there's an incident with this group over here at this gas station. Oh, it's overrun by rednecks, not the zombies. And then the zombies show up. The people in the gas station, there's a access tunnel, like a little bomb shelter thing, and they summon the zombies to come kill the rednecks so they can eventually get out of there. I mean, like something like that. Like, that'd be interesting to me. It's like this kind of using the monsters to fight other monsters, that kind of thing. And but with Walking Dead, it's like, yes, drama, drama, drama. Oh, here's a zombie. Drama, drama, drama. Oh, zombie in the issue. And that's the same thing in episodes, these TV shows.
It's like, I'm pretty sure after the whole Negan stuff for the Walking Dead TV show actually ends, something tells me that's this arc right here is basically its high note.
Yeah, it's like I think the same thing. If God forbid Jeffrey D. Morgan says I'm out, I have a feeling things are going to start going real downhill. They're going to have to get real desperate. Rick's going to have to lose a hand. Like he did in the comics. But that's the thing. It's like a lot of people. I don't know what your end goal is. Like, I don't really have an end goal with what stuff I do. I just want to make comics. I want to have fun. I want people to enjoy my comics. That's all. That's pretty much my goal. Very simple, kind of straightforward. Somebody would say it's a very shallow goal. It's not this deep, meaningful thing. It's just like, hey, just make good comics. Make comics great again. No, not that, but just make good comics. And a lot of people want to make their books. And I can sell it to, Netflix. I'll turn it into a show or an original movie, or get it made into a Hollywood movie, like that kind of thing, or like an animated series, what have you. But do you have a grand end goal, or are you just, like you said, just taking it a day at a time?
I'm just going to take it one day at a time. I guess my overall end goal would be to make good comics, but to also make a business like out of the comics that I'm making.
Yeah, to make a profit off of it, not to just work at a loss.
Yeah. But
Yeah, it's
it's
like
like, you know what, as long as I'm like making something where, let's say someone is like having a bad day and they read my comic and it, makes them feel good, then to me that's like also a huge win. It's like a huge bonus.
I'm glad to hear that. Like that right there, that's a good goal to have, and also like be a constant source of entertainment as well. To have somebody come in and have something to go towards, and it's like a kind of a reliable source that you can look to, and like yes, I can't wait for that next chapter, that next issue, that next page,
Right.
and there's a lot of people like they okay, since you're inspired from your dreams, do you see any of your work actually being like there's some people that will infuse messages, whether it be like the not necessarily politics, but just messages in general, or you just whatever came from your dream, whatever like works out as far as like what you envision for the page, and you put it down. Do you go out of your way to put stuff in there, or it's just like you go in and just tell the story as how your kind of gut, you're going with your gut?
I'm basically going with my gut for this.
And so
Is
like that, like that right there, that's kind of your thing, though, right?
right. I mean, like I said before, whenever I plan something out, it doesn't get like that same type of feel to me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the beginning and the ending, I will like always have that planned out, but it's basically on how to get to the end. That's kind of, you know, random gut feeling type thing to it.
Kind of play a little fast and loose, like just like you said, go with your gut and like whatever works best. Not necessarily the most easiest, but whatever story elements, like whatever's most entertaining, enthralling, keeps people kind of tuned in.
Right.
Well, have you ever, since you've been reading the new Miracle Man, have you ever read any of the old Miracle Man stuff by like Jack Kirby, the creator?
No, but you know what? After reading the new stuff, I'm I actually do want to go back and read like some of the older stuff.
Well, I actually have picked them up years ago. DC, I don't know why they did this, but they did reprints of all the Fourth World books. There were four of them. There was Mister Miracle. They called it Mister Miracle, Fourth World. The oh, it was oh, what was it? Mister Miracle, Fourth World, Forever People, and the New Gods. That's what they called it. And the New Gods collected the New Gods series, which was that mainly it starred Orion, the son of Darkseid, and the Mister Miracle stuff collected all the Mister Miracle and Fourth World collected the Mister Miracle issues, and they're black and white, and they did like a gray tone, like a kind of a half tone, almost like on the screen tone kind of thing. I had to do in manga,
Hmm.
and it's similar to that, but so it's no color in it, but they're really like it's like that's like the introduction of Big Barda, this big, strong, beautiful woman who don't take no crap from no one. Like it is like one of my favorite comic characters. I prefer her over Wonder Woman.
She
Like
is awesome.
she is. It's like she's she loves her husband, and it's not one of these. Oh well, she's subservient to him. She was a female fury. She was a warrior of apocalypse. She ain't subservient to no one. Well, definitely not anymore after she broke free of Granny Goodness and Darkseid and fights against them. It's like this. She had no choice at the time, but then like once her opportunity came, she took it. And it's just one of those great characters. I mean, I just love, and I love both her, what they call it, her bikini costume, but as well as her armored look, because both of them work. It's like this. It's not one of these. She's not a prude, but she's got like when she goes ready to throw down in battle, she's got the fist scale armor, and she's got her mace. This giant. It's great. I mean, I love it. It's this. It's one of those things about the old Kirby comics. A lot of people they kind of ignore them because they're not as prevalent. You don't see as many collections out. Uh, DC did release the complete Fourth World Omnibus recently. But it's like 120, 120 bucks, but it's like 125 bucks, I believe.
Yeah,
So,
I am too poor for that right now.
I don't blame you. I'm the same way. I was looking at it. I was like, I'd like to get this, but I don't
But
really need it. It's
that
like one of
is
those.
like no, like that is like I can buy food for that.
Yeah, that's like a month's worth of food, depending on what you get. I gotta go to go to the food line and find out. Get me like one of those London rolls, like they're on special, and go
Right,
ahead cut it up and freeze it. And I got it
right,
for a month.
right. That is like food money. That is bill money. That is, I could like probably pay my artists like for like a couple of pages money. So something like that, that's gonna have to like wait or
Well, and that right there, that's a good. I mean, there's a lot of people that would look at, like, oh, I can't wait to have it. It's like, but at the end of the day, it's like priorities. Like you have your priorities set right. There's a lot
right,
of people that don't, and it's like you have good intentions. You're not one to like. There's a lot of people that they will screw over the artists they work with, and it's good to see like they're the good people out there. You are very vocal, not being that kind of that bad actor. It's like, oh, I'll get back to you when I can. That kind, I mean, there was I do commissions from time to time when scheduling allows it. Sometimes they're a little big, sometimes they're busier than others, and I kind of get a little swamped. I do mainly black and white. That seems the most popular. It's all digital, so I don't have to ship nothing out. No, there's no delay. Depending on how big the thing is, it's like, okay, you need to pay me a little up front because there's a lot of detail here. I'm not going to just do it and then, like send you a little thumbnail. Okay, this is what I did. Like and make sure it's quality enough so they could see it, but not quality enough so they can just take and run with it.
right,
Because I found out the hard way. It's like, oh, benefit of the doubt. It's only like 500 by 600. Oh, they can't do much with that. Yoink, not pay me. So I was like, yeah. So, but taking people at their word is especially people on the internet, even face to face, people can be kind of scummy, but it's a little harder because they got to have a good poker face. They got to be real good liars and real good schemers. But look, to have your priorities straight and to have a goal in mind for the comic, to want to do right by your artist and do right by your audience, that
right,
is the best thing to do. And it's like people forget that like whether they get held up with something else. Like I've seen people like I don't read them in general. I used to read more of them, but getting burned by certain books, certain web comics actually, because I would call them books, but you know what I mean.
yeah,
Where like a new game would come out and like, oh geez, here we go. Especially if you follow them on Twitter, you'll see like, oh, I can't wait to play this game. Da, 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 da. And so the story they're working on basically goes on hiatus for God knows how long until they've either mastered the game, beat it, or just got bored of it, which could be, I don't know, month, 2 months. So you might have very spotty pages, or they got caught up doing something else, or I don't need a play-by-play detail from like the creator, but the a little bit of something, like a little bit of information, like what's going on, that kind of thing. What's taking so long? Because I was like I was a supporter at this one book, and I wouldn't do the Patreon thing, but I was doing like PayPal donations occasionally, and I was like, I'm getting nothing for it. It's just like I'm doing out of the kindness in my heart at this point. So I was like, all right, I'm done. And the book, it took them like 4 months to update, and they were giving reasons why it was taking them so long. But I don't see you doing it, thank goodness. But
no, and it's mainly because it's one like if I'm like asking like for you to draw something for me, then 9 times out of 10 I am going to want to pay you because it's like it's your job, and if it's your job, then you should get paid for it.
Yeah.
Two, my boyfriend is a artist, be, so it's like because I know one, it's like I would not want someone to like you know to rip him off. So because of that, I'm not going to do the same thing.
Yeah, to do unto others.
Yeah.
Treating people with, and it's honestly that's how people should be. Like I don't try to I don't go on my way to screw people over. I don't go on my way to make people's lives miserable. I know I have in the past. I know not intentionally, but accidentally. That stuff happens. Certain things. But when it comes to creative endeavors, it's like the best way. Like that's one thing about. I know a lot of people they hate Twitter. Me, like it's like a garden. You gotta tend it properly. And because I like gardening, like I get my garden planned out for this year. I'm gonna do yellow squash and some zucchini, and I got some tomatoes and everything. And
Oh, cool.
I I
That
do
was
okra.
nice.
Oh, I love okra. I don't know if you've ever had okra. A lot of people don't eat okra unless they're living in the South. But you got to cook it properly. You got to you can't let it grow too big. You can't be too small. Just right. About the proper length. If you were to take best example would be about the about the width of a little bit bigger than like the width from like knuckle to knuckle on your hand. That'd be about that about proper length of the non from the not including the tip, not including the neck of the okra, and you got to make sure the fur's off of it, and you chop it up. And I just do some sea salt and some oil in the pan, like to the point where it's a little crispy but not burnt, and it's really tasty. I'm I'm definitely from the South. I love my okra, but but yeah, it's like Twitter's like a garden as far as you got to tend it properly. If you got the weeds, the bad actors, people like just not being helpful and not being like cool to be around. They're just drama, drama, drama. But it's a good way of connecting with people, and it's creative types that at the very least can help get the word out for what you're working on. That can even help you out in a pinch. Like, hey, I got this idea, but I kept running into a roadblock. Can you like kind of run it by you? That kind of thing. Like, get your feedback. And that's a beautiful thing about it. And also any social media that you can actually work with other creative types and not necessarily like do like what they call those mafias, like, but no, just whether you're little online mafia, just do some good people, like, know some good people that got your back at the very least, like to help spread the word and like help you out if you need it. It's like and that's one good thing about it, and it's like growing your kind of presence, is good. Making you being like just being yourself, not trying to be a decent person if you're not, because it's a lot of these people you can kind of see through their veneer. It's like, oh, you're kind of miserable, aren't you? and
Yeah.
it's like like it kind of makes you want to. It discourages the interaction at times, but I don't see that from you, so it's like it's good. It's like it's like very lucky, very lucky that that's not your case. But okra isn't bad, Donna. Yeah, but but I find it funny that it's like a lot of people they'll eat breaded okra. Because this turned into a food stream, but yeah, breaded okra is good too. Like a breaded okra and some breaded popcorn shrimp. I hate unbreaded shrimp. I don't like
Oh, I
jumbo
love
shrimp.
that.
I it's gotta be the tailless popcorn. I cannot eat. I do not want to have to pull the tail off of it. It's bad enough. I looking at shrimp kind of disgusts me, but as long as it's covered with bread, I'm fine. I'm a child that way. I can't blame it. I can't blame myself. Um, I can take responsibility for my actions. Now I can eat a steak like nobody's business.
Oh yes, nice juicy steak.
Oh, nice. I got some steaks marinating in the fridge right now. I'm marinating them for 5 days, and they come out so soft. You can cut them with a spoon. They're that soft. I mean, it's just like they're delicious. Oh, magnificent. But yeah, it's like one of those things. It's like I like, but yeah, like it's like when dealing like it's like just like with anything, and as far as getting like spreading the word of the comic, and getting it out there. And I hope you continue to do that. And like like, hey, this is what I'm working on. This is where you can find it. And it's like I found if you like if you kind of do somewhat of the work for people, like what I'll do is sometimes I'll have like these uh like document files, or whether it would give whether it be all Microsoft Office, WordPad, whatever, with the links to the like I say where links to the site, all the sites it's hosted on, Patreon, stuff like that, and where you don't have to give like have people go out of their way. It's like right there for them, so it's like makes it a little easier because people not necessarily lazy, but in a way they can be kind of they don't want to work for anything, but
Right.
they're will don't make extra work for them. But yeah, it's like they really could be like they could. It's like one of those. I try to do the same thing. It's like with the description for the chat, for this live stream. I put all your info in there. I put where you could every place you can find the comic, your Patreon, your YouTube, everything. I got you covered. You
Oh,
know,
thanks.
you're welcome. And that's how people should do when they do these. Like that's the thing. It's like it makes it easier and like kind of a one stop shop. But yeah, Donna's right. Like, Twitter could be a better tool for comic book creators that work for Marvel DC if they really care for comics and they don't and they're not haters, and that's true. It's a great tool, but a lot of people misuse it. It's like like, hey, I'm not a Trump fan, but if I'm following a comic person, it's like I want to I kind of get to know that person, maybe what they work on, not hear 24/7 how they hate Trump. It's like we get it. You hate Trump. Your thing has got resist in your name. Okay, we get it, but hey, just is that all you are? It's
Trump though.
but it's like people. It's like the obsessed with like anything, whether it's one game, obsessed with sex, obsessed with a football team, that kind of thing. It gets annoying after a while. It's like be a person. Where's the personality? Like have a little life to your work. Interact. Not just like quote tweet people and be all angry. And that's one of those issues I have with a lot of these comics people. And when they put their books out, and I'm talking about the more independent, like you put self-published, that kind of thing. They forget that they're actually they're supposed to be creators, and like, I'm not saying we shut up and do art, or shut up and write a prose story, but there are people that they forget that they have that potential of being creative, and they obsess themselves with a person or object that they have no control over, and they're letting that control them. But that's just the way I look at it.
I mean, if it was me, I would like probably have a separate thing, one for my comic, and then one that was like not not for my comic, like just for me.
Mm-hmm.
That way I can complain about stuff, but it's not going to be like on my main comic one.
Yeah, well, that's a smart thing to do. There's a lot of people they may like. I know a guy he was working on some YouTube videos, but he kind of stopped because he gets in these fights with Twitter pedos, non-acting pedophiles, and he's gotten suspended multiple times because he'll say some things, pretty harsh things. I'm not going to disagree with him, but it's like, oh, you're falling for it, man. They're going to suspend you again. They'll put him in a limited state where he can only like DM people, and he's like, they got me again. I'm like, they're eventually just going to ban you, man. And he's like, I got a backup account. Don't worry. Like if you see this name, that means I'm following you. That's me. I'm like, okay, like it just like, but that's the obsession is a real thing, and it can be addiction to get in fights. But yeah, it's like, but yeah, I agree with Donna. It's like the the whole politics thing. Getting I'm not saying they should shut their like basically shut up about their politics, but forcing this all the time is not talking about the work. If the idea of having a Twitter for that is just very annoying. Exactly, it's like like the idea of a work Twitter and a like kind of a personal like rant Twitter.
Right.
But yeah, it's like there's certain people that they're the kind of the sycophants who agree with every single word the creator says, that they'll buy the book no matter what. It's like my Gail Simone theory, that she's got like 100,000 followers, roughly around that. At this point, there's no need for her to work any harder than she has to, because even if only 5% of those 100,000 buy books, that's 5,000, and they actually pay, or PayPal, Patreon, what have you. She can live somewhat comfortably, not perfect, but she's not going to hurt. Well, there are people that once they get to a certain point, it's like they want to shut the door behind them, and I don't like that. It's like the same thing with these comedians. They'll get up, they'll use every joke in the book, no matter how rough, how whatever somebody might consider hurtful. But as they get up to the top and they want to shut the door behind them, it's like, oh no, you can't say that. That's wrong. Like, yeah, you say that now because you have a potential of being in a big budget Disney film, and you want to just sanitize your history, or like make mea culpas for anything you've done wrong, supposedly. But yeah, it's really odd to see people act like that, especially comic book people too, because there's like they'll go in, like they'll try to get rid of their old art. It's like, I've seen what you've done. I know what you do. It's like hiding it's just going to make it worse. You try to get out in front of it. But speaking of art, like I think we've talked previously, but just in case, do you have any aspirations of doing your own artwork, whether it be pencil, charcoal, ink, digital, poser programs, anything? Like, do you plan on ever doing a story that you've not only written but illustrated as well?
I would, but the only thing I can draw is stick people.
Oh, come on. I think you can do better than that.
No.
Oh, I mean, those, I'm not kidding. I stand by those, how to draw manga books. Those things, how to draw the Marvel way. There is a book. I think it's definitely out of print, but it is called, I got it right behind me. It is Wizard, How to Draw. Wizard magazine back in the day had these segments where they had like this, like how to draw this, how to draw that, everything from people up to superhero poses, to use the shadows, perspective, how to draw metal, monsters, moss, all that. And it's it's kind of a good touchstone. Like if you're getting kind of lost with something you're working on, it's like with your Mr. Miracle #1. It's like a good place to go to and kind of center yourself, find that center, that kind of inspiration. And those books, I've seen people go from like, oh, I can only draw stick figures, and like they kind of tap into that potential. And even if they're like, a lot of people look at like, you don't have to do straight up comic book style art. Like there are people that do very strange and dreamlike stuff, like working with charcoal. Like I'm very like almost like shadow people. It's really like I've seen that kind of stuff. I wish I could kind of work in that fashion, but I don't like the mess with charcoal. I'm kind of I don't like being messy. So it's kind of a hindrance right there. But yeah, it's like one of those things. It's like I'd like you to give it a shot or something, like one of those like just little sketches here and there, like one of those little tiny sketchbooks, and like maybe just draw what you see, and take it from there. I mean, so you never know, what kind of potential you have inside of you.
I mean, I might, but I think for right now, I'm just going to focus on the writing aspect of things. And that's like always been like a main passion of mine.
Okay. And well, so I get that. It's like, but hopefully you do tap into maybe some artistic potential. It seems like you got, like you said, you got your boyfriend who illustrates as well, who's an artist. So that right there, that could be like that could be a resource. and hopefully, like, I will say one thing: it makes it easier when you when you are the writer and the artist. You don't have to you don't have to pay yourself, you know.
Yeah.
And you only have, and like, also I found even when you give a lot of leeway, it's like you can only have yourself to blame for certain things. Like, ah, crap, oh, I didn't ask for this. It's like, but you've already done it, and I should revise it. Shucks, just you kind of swallow it and not be too swallow your pride a little bit, or any kind of disappointment. Because I'd worked on something, a project with someone, and he asked me to do thumbnails, break it down thumbnail style. So I did, and he ignored the thumbnails. I was like, I worked my butt off doing those thumbnails after working on other stuff too, and then you didn't even use them. I'm like, all right, that's what you get, Larry, for not doing the comic yourself. So it's this personal experience in that regard. But as far like, do you watch movies? Do you use any kind of cinematic, even though, like you said, with the dream based stories? Do you use any kind of cinematic inspiration as well, or or maybe like as a palate cleanser? Like if you're working on something, like maybe put in a movie, and it kind of like gets your mind off of what you're working on. It's like if you're missing your keys, the one thing you don't do is go look for your keys, because if you do something else, you'll find your keys. Uh, like, do you find movies as being like that kind of thing, or like inspirational, or something you gravitate towards?
I mean, I'm usually not a huge movie person.
Hmm.
Like it really has to basically just catch my focus.
Hmm.
But it's like I don't use it for inspiration per se. It's like I said, if I'm having like a hard time putting something down on paper, then
Hmm.
then I basically might use that movie just to like kind of calm my mind. Basically, not focus on the comic for a bit, watch the movie, have some fun with that movie, and then like I will like probably go back to that comic because like now I have like something new, something that was fun for me to watch. Just making it a um a lot um nah, a where I can just focus on the comic like a lot
Hmm.
better.
Well, as far as like focus, it's like when when you're writing out the pages, like when you're writing stuff down, do you do it as a like what they call the traditional comic format, like with the page one, panel one,
Yeah,
kind of that kind of thing?
yep.
Okay, because I've seen people write it out almost like a novel, and then like estimated 16 pages. I'm like, what? That doesn't. So it's like it's a little too much freedom. It's like sometimes it's like maybe break it down a little bit better. It's a little, that right there is a little too much breathing room. And I'm not saying it's like that's a wrong way of doing it. It's just definitely not my cup of tea. It's like, that's just something I've read some scripts. I've looked through some people's scripts, and that's one thing I disagree with a lot of these people that do these like whatever portfolio reviews, because afternoon, James, welcome, welcome, welcome. Uh, but there there are these people that they'll go out of their way when they do these reviews, and if you're not working from a proper script, like you can write it yourself, but as far as script format, the person doesn't understand how to interpret the script. You know, it's like in that one thing, but like as far as the writer and artist having kind of being on the same wavelength, the same pattern, and like, I think you won't have that issue, you know, for your comic. But have you ever have you ever considered, possibly like doing a kind of like I'm not say a crowdfunding drive, but since since already got you got some pages out, you've shown that the book is in the process of being done. I know you have the Patreon, but a possibility of you know down the line maybe doing a crowdfunding, whether it be Kickstarter or something like that. Is that a possibility down the line, or something you might consider?
Um, Kickstarter is definitely going to be something I am going to do. Not now, but like maybe sometime next year or so.
Okay, and that right there, like going from that, and as far as utilizing your channel, what future content do you see producing for your YouTube channel?
Hmm. Probably some more comic stuff. Maybe like put in some more geeky, um, nerdy type content. Because my YouTube channel, I see that more as like a hobby, if you will. So,
Okay.
and it's like I've also, um, then it's like I'm also doing the channel because I have basically um so so um um anxiety, and I also um um started a bit.
Hmm.
So I figured by me making this channel, then that's kind of like my own way of this overcoming those two things that I'm dealing with.
And not resorting to like heavy doses of certain like that's what's
Yep.
done my business. But like there's certain people that uh, I've encountered. Like, there's a friend of mine who she I knew her before she started taking anti anxiety pills, and it was like
Uh,
it was
uh,
kind of like I don't know. Sorry to cut you off. I didn't mean to cut you off.
oh, go ahead.
No, I was saying is like I saw a drastic change and not for the better, and it was like her anxiety was like it wasn't enough to it wasn't crippling because she held down her job. It wasn't that wasn't an issue. But her job entailed where she actually had to go and do some more than normal, like above, you get kind of above and beyond, like kind of her job evolved. And that right there, that introduced a lot, these certain aspects, these occasional events and stuff that she had to take care of. And that right. And so instead of, I was looking at it, it's like, because I was on the outside looking in, and, like that way, the way I was looking at it was, instead of tackling it maybe not necessarily head on, but maybe like incrementally to the point where you kind of got used to it and you actually could overcome that anxiety, or at least to the point where it wasn't affecting you physically. Maybe like a little bit, like you might be a little antsy, that kind of thing. That's going to happen. A little anxious, a little, maybe self doubt, but not to the point of letting it control you. Like certain, I'm
Right.
not. That's what I was looking at on her in her case, but the pills, like kind of it that those they change the person and who that person is, and but they're it's a benefit and a curse at the same time, because it's like it affects that person for who they are. And it just, that's the way I was, I didn't, I'm just saying this example, but
Right. It's like me. I honestly don't trust the pills because it seems like, yeah, we'll get rid of like of like one thing, but everything else, I'm good. Okay, I'll figure out like a second way of like this dealing with this.
you know well, that's the thing, like you're actually thinking as far as like like not only just in the here and now, but down the line, you're actually putting some forethought into it. Because there's a lot of people, it's kind of like, I could, I'm being a little facetious here, but the whole, they're taking the easy way out by taking the pills. It's like, instead of, because it isn't easy overcoming anxiety. I
Yeah.
understand this. I was a very anxious kid. I still have a little bit of, like, there's certain things uh, like a little. Sometimes I get a little hyper for certain things. I get quite anxious, like to the point of, like affects my breathing for certain things.
Right.
Like where my visual, sometimes my visual get blurry, that kind of thing. And so it's like, that's not good. But I've never had to take the pill, never had to take any pills for it. It's like, I'm not saying no one should ever take the pills. I'm not one of those, like, kind of Scientologist kind of thing. It's like, pills are evil. It's like, sometimes pills work for certain people,
Right.
but for especially certain cases where it's like, but one thing that got me over my anxiety was doing school plays. I did 2 plays in high school. One in particular was it was a Christmas play where the first story was, I played a father who killed his entire family on Christmas in a car accident. Yes, wonderful drama teacher. he picked the story. So it's that's one of those really interesting story elements right there. Didn't and another one that kind of got me over my anxiety, but gave me anxiety at the same time. It actually made me physically sick. After finishing it, there were supposed to be more kids. There were supposed to be 3 more, but they all chickened out, and I was the only one. That right there, that gave, oh my gosh, we were in elementary school, and we were supposed to do a presentation during the high school halftime football game. The halftime football game, and so there was about 200 plus people in the stands, which isn't much. I mean, it's a small town, actually not even town. It's the south end of the county. It's where, like, all the it's like the really, really small towns. This is the school they'd send their kids to, and it was supposed to be me and 3 others doing the YMCA, but because of me being by myself, not the one to chicken out, and I was dressed as a construction worker and doing the YMCA by myself. And the worst part was looking over at my mom and dad and having to see them, like, they're kind of grinning and happy and they're clapping this and that. Like, no, I was trying to not look at them. And afterwards, after I got done, I booked it, and some people were, like, trying to give me high fives. I'm like, okay, whatever, and I just booked it. And where'd you go? I said, did you go get something to drink? I said, no, I was sick. Like, I kept it because imagine that. Like, there were people, there were people recording it, and imagine if I'm up there, YMCA. It would not have been pretty. It would have been like one of those. The first thing I thought was, don't do it, because if you do, that if I actually was up there, I would end up like America's Funniest Home Videos, like, all over the place, like, look at that, this is what he did, like, and I'd be sitting in the audience, like, just angry at the entire time that they're making fun of me. They're gonna all laugh at you, Larry. They're gonna all laugh at you, but yeah, it's like I'm glad that you're, like, taking it, even though it's a hobby, with the YouTube channel, like, taking that as a way to, conquer your anxiety, and as well as potential of a marketing tool, because like that right there, like, geeky fun stuff, as well as, like, building an audience, and then being able to put out, like, announcement videos, because sometimes it's, like, cooler to have that than just like a wall of text, but I really hope that happens, like, that you're able to continue that and expand upon it.
Thanks.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's like, it's just good to. I know, this is probably still a little. I think this is the 3rd stream I've been on with you. Which it's like, and it still takes a bit. One of the reasons I talk so much is so I don't get kind of self-conscious for the most part. Like, oh no, there's people listening. Oh wait, nobody's listening. Oh no, I'm listening to myself. I'm talking to myself. I'm getting crazy for it. It's like one of those things. I overthink it. That's my biggest problem, is overthinking things.
That's That's like probably one of my biggest problems too. Like I overthink things way too much.
It's like where you're thinking like, okay, if I do this, this affects that, that affects that, this will affect that, and then that'll screw me up in the future down the lines. Oh crap, I can't do that. So it's like one of those deals.
Yes.
Oh my god, it's actually good to know somebody else does that because it's like I'm no longer alone. It's like we're Highlanders or something. We're immortal. It's like the quickening. Um, uh, but yeah, it's like that. That's the funny thing about it's like the overthinking, which that was what I've been doing for long because I peer pressure has never really affected me outside of like in real life. Peer pressure never affected me. There's like, hey man, like there's people were passing around skag weed in high school and said if I kept my mouth shut they'd give me some, and I'm like no, I don't want your skag weed. Like stems and seeds. I don't want none of that junk. It's like, I'm not gonna go pick through it. That kind of thing. It's like it's peer pressure never affected me then. There's people drinking, smoking, none of that. I kept clean, straight. I could say straight edge, but no, it's like I was a square. I am a square, but I've let peer pressure affect me when it comes to creativity. Because if you're like, oh Larry, you should do a long format story. I'm a guy that likes doing short stories, beginning, middle, and end, like 3, 4, 5 pages, done. No long stories. When I do long stories, it burns me out and it makes me angry and miserable. Because I'm like, if I were doing a short story, I could have 4 stories done by now. But no, I'm working on a longer story. That's the way I look at it. And but that peer pressure thing is like, I hope I never make it seem like that. I don't never want to put any kind of pressure on you because that's just not worth it. So please, if you feel like I am, just tell me to back off, and I will. And I will not be offended. I will not take offense from that. But yeah, I just want to let you know that.
All right. I will be right back.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. All right. So while Rebirth is taking a step away, I will regale you in the. I haven't read it yet, but I cannot wait. I had recently got 01 Publishing. That is Kat Rocha, Josh Finney, and Josh Finney wrote this book, Case File Arkham, Volume 2, Her Blood Runs Cold, a Hank Flynn PI story. It is one of the best looking comics, and I love the format. It's smaller than it fits better in my hand. My hands are not these giant Andre the Giant size man hands, but they're great. Beautiful black and white interior art, noir storytelling. It's like Raymond Chandler meets H.P. Lovecraft. This is not a sponsored advertisement for it, but it's just good. And also, if you happen to buy comics online and you listen to this before midnight Eastern Standard Time, MidtownComics.com is actually doing a sale, back issues only. It's a 40% off all back issues online only from Tuesday, March 6, 2018. Code word Classic 2, CLASSIC, the number 2, one word, and you enter that in a little promo code thing, get 40% off back issues. And currently, I was looking through, there was a bunch of stores. I was looking through some old Wizard stuff, see if they actually had those Wizard half issues. Clearly, they didn't, unfortunately. Which has been one of those things I quite enjoy. Those 16-page Wizard issues. There's a Spider-Man Unlimited. There is the Generation X half issue, which I used to have and got rid of. Unfortunately, there was 2 covers. There was a photo booth cover and the lowrider cover with Skin driving his little lowrider with little tiny wheels. So yes, Classic 2, this is a Classic number 2. All one word, MidtownComics.com, and get 40% off back issues. Again, not an advertisement, just like, hey, here's a chance to go get some stuff. I was actually going to go and get all the Cyberforce issues I could find. But unfortunately, they have the first 4 issues, the 0 issue of Volume 1, and they have only the first 7 of Volume 2. And the rest of it gets really spotty after issue 7. It's like issue 10, issue 13, issue 22, issue 31. It's like and apparently from what Mega Gear's ex Braylon, his channel. Go check that out. He had talked with Matt Hawkins of Top Cow, and they have lost the negatives, so they cannot reprint from the negatives of Cyberforce. So what's out there is all that's out there, which is really, really unfortunate and kind of depressing knowing that there's no more Cyberforce issues. Welcome back.
Hey.
Yeah, I was regaling the listeners of that the Cyberforce comics from the '90s. They're never ever going to be reprinted because they lost the negatives or they're damaged. Because back in the day, they would take that. That's just the point. That's disappointing. I love the old Cyberforce comics. They're kind of cheesy and a little bad, but they're good kind of bad. They're like they were earnest. You know, they were not, and it's like bad as in like the bad girl kind of stuff, like the overly sexy costumes. And I wanted to ask you about that. As far as, you know, when you see women, like sort of women portrayed in comics, have you ever seen a woman portrayed in comics and taken offense by that, or kind of like whatever, like that kind of thing, like that kind of like blown it off?
It's like for me in comics, look, everyone is hot, all right? So if you like are basically if you are like upset about, let's say, that Vogue is writing something, then you should also be upset that, you know, Batman has like six-pack abs, because it's like I said, in comics, everyone is hot, so it's equal in a way.
Yeah, so it's kind of all balanced. So you don't, you know, like you taking it like it's just like artwork. It's subjective, and so you're being very rational about that, which is good. It's like that would be kind of I will admit that would be kind of disappointing. Like, oh yeah, I can't stand when that like that kind of character. It's just this taking advantage. I'm like, they're not real. I'm thankfully you're not like that.
No, I mean, like, also I like boobs and I like ass, so it's like
My
I
kind
don't
of
really
woman.
care.
My kind of woman. This thing is like I'm the same way. It's like I like to draw when I draw women. A friend of mine, she was mentioning how like when you see comics like outside of like certain indie comics, when they draw women, like certain women like in comics like have that kind of same body type, like you know the kind of the tall but with you know big breasts, that kind of thing. It's like you know I like to toss it up a little bit as far as the variety goes. Like, you know, different heights, different like like okay, that woman has a little bit more meat on her bones. She has, you know, not much in the breast department, but a big old butt, you know, that kind of thing. Or she might have a little bit of a gut. Her thighs might be a little, you know, a little bigger than normal. You know, she may not be the tallest. You know, different hairstyles. I did this. I did art a while back because somebody was like talking about how like I'm a big fan of Pam Grier. I love Pam Grier. Coffee is probably one of my favorite movies of all time. I don't know if you've ever seen that film.
I'm
Uh,
probably it.
it's it's one of the like the '70s black exploitation classics. You have Pam Grier in Coffee, where she is her brother OD'd. And so the movie starts out, she's acting like a prostitute. So the guy picks her up, says, oh yeah, take this bitch back to thing. And then she turns on him and goes on a killing spree. She's like, it's, Tarantino said that he basically based The Bride off of Coffee. And I'm like,
Huh.
Coffee is much better than The Bride, in my opinion.
I will definitely check that one out then.
Oh yeah, it's like, so, but she had this, but like, you know, during like with the afro and everything, it's like, there's like certain, that's, when you see a lot of artists when like they have to if they draw any woman that's black, like they get sometimes they get lazy as far as like there was more than one hairstyle, gentlemen
I
or
know, it's
ladies.
like, okay, guys, look, as a black female,
Hmm.
we all don't wear afros like 24/7. All right.
That's what bothered me about Wolfenstein, the the new Colossus, because like the when Deborah Wilson, you know, from Mad TV, Did you ever watch Mad TV? I might be telling my age. um, but uh, did you ever watch that show, Mad TV? It was a Fox show.
I've seen a couple of episodes of it.
Okay. Well, Deborah Wilson was on Mad TV. Well, she was the character model as well as the voice actors, and I guess motion capture for the leader of Resistance. I believe her name was Grace, and Wolfenstein: The New Colossus. And she has an afro. Then every other member of the Resistance has every the men and the women. It's basically they're not Black Panthers, but they're basically Black Panthers, kind of sorta. You know, black jackets, the berets, but every single one of them have afros, and it was like that was just lazy. It was very lazy art direction as far as that goes. It's like to act like the idea of shorter haircuts, cornrows that doesn't exist, that kind of thing. Like it's like the idea is like this thing is like a lot of people they think, oh, you live in the South, so of course that's the only thing you see. It's like, no, there's different hairstyles, for the love of all that's holy.
I know,
Like,
like you can just easily go online and look up black hairstyles, and you will see that, like I said, we don't wear afros 24/7.
exactly. It's a case. Like, I mean, I've maybe seen less than a dozen people my entire life with an afro outside of film. In like actual real life, it's not a common thing. It's not that common because it's a lot of maintain. It's not an easy thing.
Right.
But especially if it's a windy day.
Right.
But it's like
Um, um, stuff like twists and dreads, I'll see that like a lot more than I would hmm, like I would that one hairstyle.
But that's one of those things. A lot of people, it's like they want to talk. It's like with the whole diversity thing. Like, that's one of those things. People are like, oh, diversity, diversity. It's like, but as far as content of character, it's like I'd like to see, like one of my favorite characters, and like I bring her up every time, especially if anybody mentions, the whole Captain. They mentioned Captain Marvel. I was like, Monica Rambeau. Where's my Monica Rambeau? She's like, well, and then she barely gets any. She really doesn't get any respect, and that's unfortunate. And like when I was reading Avengers, it was years past the time the issues came out. It was getting them at flea markets and that kind of thing, and picking them up. And then that team was the bearded Thor. It was Monica Rambeau. It was like Jack of Hearts. Like these characters, like they're really not going to show up in any of the Marvel films. That they're so generic. The Marvel films, they're kind of like lowest common denominator, as it were, which is quite unfortunate. But to see like different, as far as like different backgrounds, the characters coming from different, not just hairstyles, body shape, origins. Like when they do a character, it's like, oh, he's a character, but he's like a. It's like when they did that Simon Baz, the Green Lantern, the Muslim Green Lantern.
Oh, I love him.
And it's like I wish he was like from like the Middle East though. I was like, that'd be actually great. The idea of this guy from the Middle East, but he's always American. I'm like, no, why does he got to be American? Everybody's got to be American. It's like the DC universe. If it can make me care about a character that's not even from Earth, like with Scott Free and Big Barda, I can care about a guy from the Middle East. Just make it a little toss it up. I give that little bit of contrast. He's got an alien power ring, and he's kind of alien to different cultures. So like that right there works. But that's the way I look at it. That
would be nice.
That was a missed opportunity. I was like, oh, that's such a disappointment. Like this guy, he's just a decent dude who was, say his family was like attacked by some warlords or something, and the willpower alone, the ring came down, slid on his finger, and he messed those warlords up, and protected his family. This idea of this guy, and then, instead of fleeing the country, he actually stayed there and protected his country and protected his people, or not necessarily the country, but protected his people, and and then helped out when kind of brokered peace, because the ring translates and stuff like that would be kind of cool. It's like that. I'd like to see that, but That's like my creative notion, but yeah, that's just me. It's like these like when you toss things up, be a little diverse. It's like that's why I'm more of a meritocracy, merit based person. Like it doesn't matter who the person is as long as they're good. You
Right.
know, it does. Like I don't care. Like somebody shows up, I don't care who they are, what they are, as long as they're actually doing the job. Like okay, can you do this on time? Can you, are you going to be late? Are you going to be excuses? As far as like, oh, I was playing a video game. Oh, this happened. Oh, my computer crashed. Oh, Photoshop messed up. Whatever that kind of thing. It's like no, just if you do the job, you do the job. That's all that matters to me. I don't, it's the quality of the work too. But it's just it's kind of disappointing. Some people think that you have to have you know, like the idea is like this. It's kind of weird. It's almost like the when like this character Asian, we got to get an Asian writer. The character's gay, we got to get a gay writer. Oh, it's a black woman character, a black female character. We got to get a black female writing the book. It's
I
weird.
I hate that. All right. It's like, okay, look, just because I am a black female, that it does not mean that the only thing that I can limit myself to is writing stuff about other um females like myself.
Mhm.
It's like, okay, look, guys, I can write a female, I can write a male. This don't put me in a box, if you will.
Yeah, it's like you're more than the sum of your parts, and that right
Right.
there, and that's what a lot of people forget. It's like there's certain aspects. Like I will admit, there's certain aspects. Like say, if I were to write, uh, let's say if I was to write about a black woman and say 1981, let's say Memphis. Like she grew up in Memphis and then she leaves and she moves to uh, San Francisco. Like I never had the life experience of a black woman. I never lived. I was not even born in '81. I was still a twinkle, as they say.
I
um,
was not even thought of in 81.
yeah, I mean, I'm old, but not that old. '84 is my year, but
90 for me.
okay, wow, I'm really old now. But I find it kind of funny. It's like there's somebody who would like they would take umbrage with the fact that it's like like, oh, how dare you? Like, how like you'll mischaracterize. Like, they won't even kind of like like if somebody wants like say if you like say if you wanted to write about a whether it be a blue space alien or a old old crippled blind white guy from Florida who got his he had eyes damaged in an accident, like a fishing accident years prior, and something or whatever. Like it doesn't matter. It's like just write. It's
Right,
fiction. You're not. It's not like it's going to harm anybody. There's
right,
and I think like to prevent people from being able to like kind of the best person to take to get the job, and it doesn't right any wrongs in the past. It's like there's people that would be like, all these horrible things happen, so we got to, kind of got to make up for it. But it's like two wrongs don't make a right. It's like the eye for an eye thing. It's like, yeah, that sounds good and all. It's like, oh, somebody, messes up my eye, I go take theirs, and then that person, da, 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 and it's a never-ending cycle.
right.
But it's like, I would take eye for an eye for Squirrel Girl. It's like you gave me Squirrel Girl, I give you this.
Yeah, you kind of deserve that if you did that comic, which I will not be naming. So,
No. Well, that's one thing that gets me about the way these people when it's like because a lot of them. Uh, this is kind of a off the topic. That's something with the whole Holden Court thing. I didn't want to put like Holden Court comics, that kind of thing, just like
oh, you're
just
good.
keeping it pop culture. Uh, do you? I don't. I want to see your thoughts on this. Do you believe white guilt exists, or do you think should it exist?
I'm on the whole side of I honestly don't really care. All right, if you want to feel guilty about something, go ahead.
It's like
but
you can't control how somebody's going to feel, right?
yeah,
It's like, you know.
but at that same time, if that guilt leads you to giving me money, then I am going to encourage that guilt.
Oh my god, you're like you're growing to become one of my favorite people of all time. That right there.
Like, yeah. So your people at one point basically kidnapped my people. Not only that, but you also took my land. So give me money.
Well, that's the thing. It's like somebody could say like that right there. It's like, see, if somebody's gonna feel guilty enough where they're gonna be like, I feel so. It's like those. I don't know if you've ever seen it up in Madison, Wisconsin. There are these a lot of. I think they're like professors. If not, either professors or students. But they did this thing where it was they chain themselves up and like when during the slave trade, like when the coming from the coast going out to the ships, they would with the wood, the logs, the chain, like the same kind of setup, and they had these placards around their neck saying "We're sorry, we're guilty," and it's like, yeah, that's good and all. But how about you
Yeah.
actually give me money? It's like you're saying.
No, it's like to me, I kind of find that like, okay, look, don't this don't okay because with like you trying to chain yourself, to me, I kind of find it insulting.
Yeah, see, I totally get that. That's just.
This is like, okay, look, this isn't something that you can just say, well, I went through it because I changed myself, even though it's like a lot more than that.
Yeah, it's not a. It's one of these things like you, for whatever reason, whether it be guilt, whether it be virtue signaling, what have you, because there's certain people like that. Like, look, I see what I did. I was so selfless. I'll let this happen. It's like so I can experience. Like, no, you don't know the experience. That's not the experience. It's a nightmare. It's an
It is.
absolute nightmare. And it's like the thing about it is, even then, it's like because it's like it's a totally complicated issue because like a lot of people look at it, it's like there's certain people that you have the whole Liberia situation. You have the Dutch, because everybody thinks it's just like some redneck Americans just got on a ship and went over. It's not that simple. It was
No,
never that simple.
no.
You have the Arab slave trade going down into sub-Saharan Africa. The whole with the that was going on for a long time. I mean, that was this. It's pretty. It's a nightmare, and it's actually like with the whole thing going on in Libya today after the Gaddafi regime. I mean, it's the idea that after the Civil War and after Emancipation Proclamation that all slavery all over it's all free. There's still going on today, and people forget that, and it's like it's easier for them to wash their hands of it and then to not address it because it makes them feel uncomfortable. And a lot of people just they seek out that comfort, and just because like some upper middle class, if not privileged white folks put some chains around their wrists and placard around their neck and weep some tears, that makes everything okay. It doesn't.
Right, and it's like, okay, look, guys, like, don't do that because, like I said, this isn't something that was just made up. This actually happened to my people.
Yeah.
So to like basically see you, like I said, chain yourself up, it doesn't do anything, all right? And it also makes you look kind of pathetic, if you will.
That's a perfect way of describing it right there.
It's like, okay, this, stop. Like I said, if you want to help out a person whose ancestors were on that ship, then give me money. All right.
Yeah.
I will guilt you into that.
And that right there, I love the fact that it's like there's people that would be like, they'll talk a big game, but like, you put them in that situation. It's like, okay, you feel so guilty, give me money.
Right. It's like, yeah, like,
Kind of offset your guilt with cash. I could
yes,
definitely use that. Your guilt doesn't help me none. Your
right,
cash will, and
yes.
it's like, and that right there, the idea of like when somebody like I saw somebody, and this is when I was in Wisconsin. Wisconsin's a weird state. I don't know if you've ever been, but
Nope.
it's a lot of serial killers came out of there. That's where them two girls that tried to kill their classmate, the whole Slender Man trial. You know, the two little girls that try to kill. There's a lot of crazy ass people in that state. But Willem Dafoe comes from Wisconsin. I was actually in his hometown. So I was like, oh, Willem Dafoe's from here. And I'm like, that makes sense. If any actor was a serial killer, it'd be Willem Dafoe. Uh, but but with being in that state, there was a guy, and I was at a dinner, and I was visiting some friends, and he was at the dinner. You know, he's a family relative of my friends there, and he was one of these. He lives in Madison. He was up. This was around Easter time, and it was actually day before Easter Sunday, so it was that Saturday. And he'd come up, and and he was one of these. He felt guilty. It's like, I donated NAACP, and it's like to get rid of his guilt. And now you say that, it's like don't donate to them. Give me money. Give me money
Right.
directly. And it's like that actually could help somebody out. It's like some people, I get kind of weird, especially if somebody like, hey man, here's some money. Like like if I help somebody out, just the kindness of my heart, which doesn't happen often. I stick to myself. But somebody tries to paint me like, no, it's all good, it's all good. Like that kind of thing. But certain situations, I'm like, yeah, I'd like to get paid, especially if you bust your butt on something. But in the situation you're talking about, it's like, yes, pay me. don't
Yes.
don't beat around the bush. Pay me. Your guilt doesn't help me none, and you're giving it to an organization. It's like, is that organization going to write me a check?
No.
Exactly. It's like but it's like one of those things. It's like a lot of these people, they, you know, I think what happens, especially with media and in general, it's where it's nice to it's nice to get a gig, whether it be working for one of the big two, whether it be Marvel or DC. But it's like I can't speak for you, but I can only speak for myself. I'd rather be hired for what I can do than who I am.
That's exactly how I am. Don't, it's like, don't hire me if you're like trying to say, oh, look, everyone, we hired a so and so. Hire me because I've actually earned that job.
Yeah, that right, or very least somebody sees potential in you. Like, oh,
Yes.
I know perfect. This right here is like I could see like what you can do. It's like, hey, I got this perfect thing for you. Maybe even like hire you on, do smaller projects, kind of earn your kind of earn like not necessarily maybe respect, maybe your position, and then like it's like you don't ask somebody to run if they don't know how to walk, that kind of thing. It's like
Right.
doing self-published indie work is not the same as like doing corporate work. I've run into people, I've talked to people about that. It's like there was a guy, he was putting out books himself for the longest time, doing the do-it-yourself route. He was out of Pennsylvania, and he was putting out books, and then he gets a call actually to work at Marvel, and he did some stuff at Marvel back in the late '90s, and he's like, I almost missed deadlines. I was like, I had like he got an ulcer. He got an ulcer from the from the experience. He's like it was just a work for hire thing. There wasn't a long contract. Uh, but that right there with that some people are not used to the pressure, and that right there can really overwhelm you, especially if they kind of tap you, and you think you can do it but you're not sure, and like maybe you don't, maybe you think you really do think you can do it, and there's no doubt, but then like it hits you and like, oh no. And it can kind of break you, it can kind of break your kind of your spirit, your willpower, because it's like it's so overwhelming, because it is a big difference between working at your own pace, working at the pace of the story itself, and then having to produce pages, whether it be script or story, and that right there, that's an interesting aspect. And I think you know, I think you're doing a damn fine job of walking before you run. It's yeah,
Yeah.
but it's like and that's one thing about people forget that you know I've seen so many people, and I get excited for them. Like I'm excited for you. I'm like, I can't wait to see what you do. And it's just like to see being out there actually doing something, not just like, oh, I'm working on a book and it'll be out. No, there's actually proof. You got pages out there. You're not just talking about it. But there are people like, oh, this book's going to be. I'm working on a graphic novel. Okay, how many pages? 300 plus. And I'm like, oh no, they'll never finish this. They never do. I have not come
Yeah.
across a single person. A friend of mine working on a project, and he's at the will of the writer, and the writer is not. The writer is, I'd say aloof, very kind of. His head's in the clouds, if not doing like maybe playing video games. I think that's the main thing, and not actually producing the scripts on a regular basis. And because of being so slow, my friend, who is a good artist, because of when he started the book and when he finished the first issue, which was years in the making, he's actually improved as an artist. He has to keep his art kind of like his old style, his old, very uh, not as advanced, kind of a very not as advanced style, because it would look night and day by the time you start the book. By the time you finish it, look like two different artists and like be very jarring. So I that kind of thing. It's like that. That's what I'm thinking of. That kind of aspect. But
Right.
yeah.
It's like for me, I like to have like, let's say, a couple of pages beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
That way I can just um send them to my artist and we can just go on. Now it's like the only um um reason why like a page may not come out until like, let's say, next month or something,
Mm-hmm.
is because I honestly did not have like the funds for that page. So because of that, I just tell my person, like, you know what, I'll have the money next month. This
Mm-hmm.
basically keep it until then. Like, don't, like, this, I guess you can say, this, take a 1 month um um break if you want,
Mm-hmm.
and then like then like once I have the money, then I'll just say, okay, I have it, it's on your PayPal, go ahead.
Are you thinking of also maybe opening up a PayPal donate button or something along those lines? So those that don't want to do Patreon, because I used to do Patreon. It's been a while, and I kind of stopped doing it because it was easier. Like I would get funds, and it was easier to do the PayPal, like a one-time PayPal option than the monthly Patreon. It's like where not necessarily where I didn't kind of want to be an unknown hero kind of thing, but no, it's just like it was easier to do. It's like putting money in a jar, or that kind of thing, than it is like subscribing to a new, like I look at Patreon almost like a newsletter kind of thing. It's like that kind of deal. Even though there are rewards, it's like I'd rather help out instantly than do the whole like, oh, at the end of the month or at the beginning of the month it'll withdraw and this and that. It's like it would be easier just like, hey, I got $20 I want to do now, but I can't do $20 over for an entire a year or something. But here's
Right.
$20, that kind of thing. It's like, is that an option you're thinking about implementing, or at the very least, or
I
you
should do that because it's like for my Patreon page,
know?
like the highest thing that I have it at is $10, because I figure like $1 to $5 to $10, most people um, can somewhat, um, you know, um, like it's not a big deal.
Hmm.
So, but the PayPal thing that you're talking about, I'm definitely gonna like uh, um it's like um something that I would look into because it
Okay.
actually seems like a pretty nice thing.
Yeah, it's like something I was thinking of because I had there was a person I was when I did use Patreon, I was like, I'd like to help you out, but I'm gonna have to pull my Patreon because, well, first off, the updates were getting like few and far between, and it was getting to the point. I was like, yeah, I'd like to help you out when you have new stuff out, but it's like I try to put the nicest version of I don't want to keep on paying you for doing nothing, and that's basically what it was adding up to. I was like, it's been like 2 months and there hasn't been like nothing like worth my money. But if you're actually to donate directly, it could actually help. I think that would help out more. That would actually be more of a like okay, there's a PayPal donation. There's $5, $10, $20, what have you. Boom, there you go, and there's no pussyfooting around. That there it is. And if that's enough to cover a page, then you go ahead and send that over to the artist. The artist can, get the page done, get working, that kind of thing, and what have you. And that right there, it's like, uh, you know, I think that that could go a long way because a lot of people I've noticed that there are certain people that used to use PayPal, and then when it went over to Patreon, they kind of stopped using PayPal. Like one person in particular, I was following their work on DeviantArt, and they had their own separate site, Alpha DeviantArt, very simple, stripped down site, but they took their PayPal option off of it, and I was like, that's kind of odd, but maybe that's just their thing. But they did sign up with it was kind of one of these little comic collectives. There's a it was it, there's a few of them around. It wasn't any of the ones I really knew of. There's one I know of. Friend of mine, Denise, she's a part of not Denise Donna Troy, but another Denise. Just to differentiate. But she does a comic called The Only Half Saga and G Mutations and about Dampiers, and we got mutants and stuff like that. That's her thing. Like that's her jam, and she's a part of a web comic kind of alliance, and that could be something you might want to look into. Like maybe get a few pages down the line, and maybe looking to get one of those groups, one of those little alliance, because they're kind of community, they kind of support each other and do stuff like that. That may be something you want to look into. Just a suggestion, and
I'll have to check that out.
yeah, they're at the very least they're worth investigating. But yeah, with the way comics are today, and whether it be web comics, physical, the industrial corporate comics, independent published, whether it be the do-it-yourself, print on demand, digital print on demand stuff, or the traditional offset printing, it's and really the sky's the limit. It's all about what you want from it, what you're willing to put into it, your the vision you have or the lack thereof. Because there's a lot of people they they it feels like they want they want to put as little work as they have to in it and get all the reward that you'd expect if you were to give it your all. It's like they want high reward but no risk, and it doesn't work that way. It's like they don't want to work for it, and comics are very unforgiving. Sometimes there's a Jack Kirby quote: "Comics will break your heart," and it's like it's like you have to decide whether if before they do that, is it worth it? And if they do break your heart, do you mend it and keep going, or do you give up? And I've had them break your heart moments. Oh my lord! I did a series of comics, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be great. I could just go ahead and put them together as like a collection, like I do like a omnibus collection. Turns out I drew them at the wrong DPI. It was only 72 DPI, which works great for a screen, but not so much when you print it out. It looks horrible, and the format, I screwed it up. So all that work, that was years of comics, down the drain.
Oh man,
it 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 sent me into a
I was
spiral. Like,
fine.
so, I actually my eyes watered up, and then I punched my wall with my left hand because I'm right-handed. So I was like, I was about to punch in my right. I stopped and then punched in my left. Didn't break nothing, thankfully. And I was like, and my hand was sore, and I was like, that was really dumb, Larry. You should not have done that. But that was years of work down the drain. And for me not to be, like kind of physically frustrated like that, I was like, oh, and it was like I felt miserable for like a week after that, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna correct this so this never happens again. um, but yeah, it's actually nice to to see somebody on the rise. I have a feel, I wish you the best with
Oh,
everything you
thank you.
do. You're welcome, and it's like it's actually nice to you're down to earth. You're not. It's like it is fun to have people that are kind of they're like very showboaty and kind of almost like almost like a cartoon character, kind of wild off the wall. That's fun, but it gets annoying.
That's how my boyfriend is. It's like it's not to like up to 10, but it's like while I'm like the quiet one, this in the background,
Mhm.
he's like the opposite of that. Like, hmm.
Boisterous, kind of off the wall a little bit.
Yeah, and it's like, what? For us, if it's like that opposite thing. Like,
That's what it sounds like. The
yeah,
opposites attract kind of deal.
yeah, basically.
Well, that's good though. I mean, like and to actually have and if you like if you ever need the community our which we don't have a name, we don't have a slogan, we don't have any hashtags or anything like
Well,
that.
that
But we
is our name. The fact that we don't have one, that's our name.
well, that's what I like. I don't. I've complained about it previously. This push the needle, move the needle, drop the needle, comics gate, this gate, that gate, Hellgate,
Oh
Stargate.
no,
Um,
Hellgate is good.
Hellgate. Hellgate. Yeah, hey, there you go. That's a good title for a story. Hellgate. It's a gateway to hell. Hell, Michigan. Um, but it's like that right there. The fact that you know you got people that are you got people in this community, this unnamed community, this like splinter cell, as it were, that they got your back. I got your back. You need something, if we can help out, we'll help out. And it's not like I'll speak for myself on that fact. If there's something you need, like you bounce idea off, need to bounce idea off of me, something, whatever, anything I can do to help, I'll do my best to help. I can't guarantee everything will be 100% success. I might, you know, I don't always, I could stalk Twitter at times. I'm there, like I have it in the background going on in case I get something like like a commission or something, like somebody shows up and wants something that they want to pay for. I'm fine, but hey, can you do a request for me? And I'm like, I don't know you, and the request sounds dumb.
Yeah.
And if it's for exposure, then I'll leave you like on the Pino Colony Oroda Pinte, the dilithium mines. But I'm a big Star Trek fan, so I can't. I'm sorry, but
Star Wars for me.
I love both though. I love both, but Star, there there's so many bits in Star Trek, the original movies, as well as even the next generation films. But Star Wars, like I love the original trilogy, the prequels, and the new movies. Oh no, I don't even get started there. But
It's like, okay, the first movies, yeah, and like besides like the those first movies.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a combination of that and the cartoon. The
Oh,
one
the
that,
Clone Wars, the
yeah,
Clone Wars
it's
cartoon.
like, yes, it's like those two. That is like one of the reasons why I like um um Star Wars so much. The new movies, at why? Like, why is that? Who made this?
Well, clearly it's a soulless corporate machine that does not know Star Wars because the whole, oh, what? Who is Rey? Who is her parents? How did the lightsaber get there? And then you find out none of this matters.
Right, and it's like she's a boring character for me. It's like, you know what? I'm gonna turn this off. I'm going to go online and watch my cartoon instead. Because
That's
at least I know that makes me happy.
that's the best way to be. I actually found somebody took it off of it. I took off of YouTube. I was able to find it and see it before that happened. It was a 1981 broadcast of the original Star Wars, New Hope, but it came with the ads. It was a British broadcast. This is the weirdest thing. It's like Britain, 1981. So this is before. This is after Empire, before Jedi, and it's including all the ads. It was like 2.5, 3 hours or whatever, and it's the unaltered, no extra rocks put in front of R2D2, no extra stormtroopers, none of that stuff, no extra CG, no Jabba the Hutt. Han shoots first, and I'm watching this, and it's like it's a VHS tape from 1981, so it's like nearly 40-year-old tape, and I'm watching it, and it's like I used to say Empire was my favorite. Now it's New Hope because it's a solid. It's a his beginning, middle, and end. It's fun. The whole certain stuff like I keep on coming back to the what do you call it, the brig where they go in, Chewie breaks free, they take out the guards. It's like, oh, we heard fire down there, what's going on? So everything's fine now, we had a malfunction, everything's fine, how are you, and we're sending a unit down there, like, look, we got company, I love it. It's fun, but it's not that, I'm holding on the line for General Hux. This is General Hux. Go ahead. Yeah, is General Hux there? And this is General Hux. Go ahead. I'm like, that right there, I wanted to scream. It was so painful to watch. This isn't Star Wars. This is
Right.
something entirely different. This is Guardians of the Galaxy 3 or something. This is not even. Oh, it's so bad. It's Luke dusting his shoulder off like he's some pimp or something. Like, oh, give me a break. No, no, don't do this. No, please don't. I think it's George Lucas's revenge. Oh, you say I ruined your childhood? Watch what I do now. he
Yeah,
sold it. He sold it to the
basically.
monsters.
Yeah.
But it's so other than the Clone Wars, so okay, do you have a favorite Star Wars character or event, like a scene or moment?
Hmm. Okay, let's see now. I am a fan of what's his name? Of Boba Fett, Vader. It's one more. Like, for some odd reason, his name I I I can't think of right now, but
Is
I do know that he's he knows Han and crap.
Oh, you mean Lando?
Yes, yes,
Le, Mr. Colt 45 himself, Billy
yes.
D. Williams. Billy D. That right there, like, I remember watching that, and I never watched the Colt 45. I just saw him years later, like with the whole, like the YouTube stuff. It's like, oh my God, that was great, Mr. Colt 45. But yeah, Billy D is great, but it's like he was so he was like never introduced prior. He was just a smooth, great character. This guy's like, whose side is he on? He's on his own side. He's actually protecting the people of Cloud City, you know, of Bespin. He's protecting his people. It's like, yeah, Han. Oh, Han was his friend, but yeah, at the end of the day, Han was a scumbag. You know, but you know, Lando's protecting his people. He's worrying about himself as well and his business interests. It's like people rely on him, and then it's whole like he realizes, oh crap, the Empire ain't gonna let this slide. So he's like, all right, in for a penny, in for a pound. But yeah, like Lando's a great character. That's the when I first saw that Solo trailer, and I don't have anything against Donald Glover, but Donald Glover is like 30 something. He doesn't look like a man. Billy D looks like a man. You know what I'm saying? It's like that kind of that presence. It's like, you know, certain people like they can. I knew people when they were in their late teens, they looked like they could be 30. You know, that kind of they looked adult. Now it's like very rarely do you see people like looking young, and Hollywood's good, but if you want to look like imposing or like this kind of like that, like if you look back at these Hollywood stars back in the day, they were in their 20s or like their mid 20s or 30s, and they looked like grown men. They looked like adults or women. They didn't look like kids. It's like if you look like an actress like the Emma Stone or who's the other one? She's that I don't know. I think she's still really young. But no, there's like those. You look at some of them; they don't look like they're grown up. They look like they're kids playing adult. Jennifer Lawrence, that's another one. It's like, look at her; she's playing an adult. I'm like, no, she's not. It's a kid. Get that kid out of the film.
I still have to show my ID whenever I, you know, try to get a beer or something.
Okay.
And it's like, you guys know how old I am, right? I've been up here like too many times now.
They're probably doing it because just in case there's a cop in there that they don't, you know, like say that they're not checking ID.
Right.
You know, they're just covering their ass. It's like somebody's gonna complain.
And it's like, you guys know, like you see my ID. My ID should be somewhat in your system, but apparently it's not. Plus, I get asked, you're still in high school, aren't you? Like, no, I'm not. Like, just please give me my stuff so I can go.
There's some like for a while I was still getting carded, and then when I stopped, it kind of hurt me a little bit. It's like, damn, I'm getting old. Yeah, I was like a little bit. I never had much of an ego, but it reared its ugly head one day when I realized I'll stop getting carded for stuff. But it was kind of funny at the same time. But it's like that right there, like you know, like that youth thing. It cuts both ways. I mean, there's people. It's like they, you know, sometimes like they'll look young for almost, you know, till one day they just look just like they've turned 100 years old, like a snap of a finger. But some of them, it's like my biggest problem this whole Solo thing. It's like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Han is dead. Lando hasn't been used. If Lando showed up in Force Awakens or something, like Lando was, like with the Maz Katana character, the not Yoda, the yellow Yoda, which they were saying, oh, we got Lupita Nyong'o in Star Wars Force Awakens, and I'm like, okay, that's cool. This is outside of Lando, and I think there's like one other character in the one of the other X-wing pilots in Return of the Jedi. That's not. There's like, you know, there's some white people, some aliens, you know, like one or two black people, like a couple Asians here and there, occasionally. And I'm like, okay, that'd be kind of cool. And they got her in there as some little, you know, yellow Yoda looking alien. And I'm like, what? Okay, that was just dumb. And like, if they're gonna have a character like that, they should have made it Lando. You know, Lando running the bar. I think that'd be kind of cool. But no, I was like, you know, that would make sense. Like, well, why does Lando have that lightsaber? It's like, yeah, I picked it up from Cloud City. I went back afterwards. It's like, I'm not gonna just leave that place. I sold the place. It's like I made money. You know, it was like that kind of thing. It's like, but no, they didn't take they had asked a bunch of questions and didn't answer any of it. I hate that, and I don't think your comic ain't gonna never you ain't gonna never do that in any of your comics, are you?
No.
Like, that mystery box stuff. I hate that. If you ask a question and like 2 or 3 pages later you answer it, I have no problem. But if you're asking a question and never answer it or ask more questions, so answer a question with a question, it's like, don't do that, please. When I read, I'm talking about movies and shows and comics and everything. It's like, don't do that. Don't ever do that. That I Lost broke me. It's like when they did that in Lost, I was like, all right, I am now never going to watch this junk again.
I have not seen Lost yet.
It's not worth it. I don't just tell you right now. The show ends with all they meet up in purgatory on their way to heaven, and that's the journey. It's not the weird smoke monster or time travel or the frozen wheel in the middle of the island and people that were paralyzed before they got to the island, but they get to the island, they can walk. Ancient societies and three-toed statues. None of that matters. What matters is we get to meet in heaven and go to heaven. That's all. That's basically this thing. It's like a bunch of flashbacks that made no sense and were pointless. So I basically spoiled the show for you, but if you still,
sounds boring in a way.
it really what it was is they didn't know. It's just like the new Star Wars films. It's the same people, J.J. Abrams, but they asked questions and they had no answers because they admitted after the fact we did this weird we just put weird stuff in there just to intrigue them so they would buy the show. And that was the whole premise. It was there were points of it where it was like there was an episode where I realized I've wasted 4 years of my time that I'll never get back. And it's like I felt like I was bamboozled. I was tricked. I was conned into watching this crap. Like, oh no. It was quite the disappointment, that show. So it's only for only for the brave. They don't mind burning up time. But
I honestly don't like my time um wasted. So yeah, no.
That's a good call right there. But on that note, I guess we'll go ahead and wrap it up. So it's been a little over 2 hours, and it's been a wonderful chat. I'm like, you're you're pretty damn funny. I know you're being honest as well. You're welcome. It's like, oh, if you feel guilty, that's great. Give me money instead of your guilt doesn't pay me, but your money will. And so if I see any guilty white folk, I'll send them your way. How about that?
Yes.
It's like, hey, if you feel guilty enough, here's the PayPal you can donate to.
Right, like, come on, guys, help me out.
Yeah, it's like that right there. That's one of those. It's that idea. It's like because I figure a lot of people, they don't want to, they would shy away from oh, you don't talk about that. That's no. It's like, no, if you make it taboo, then nothing ever changes.
Right. I mean, some stuff, it does need to be talked about.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, if we dig into everybody's past, they're gonna find something that's horrific, no matter who the person is. And
yeah, pretty much.
And it's like sometimes it's like to move forward. A lot of people, they'll look back. Don't repeat the mistakes of the past. Like you don't learn from the past, you're doomed to repeat it and all that. And yeah, that's great and all, but there's a lot of people that live in the past, and it's like at that point, it gets to a ridiculous degree where nobody can evolve and like overcome what came before. It's like they're still scarred or weighed down by what by that lot of baggage. And there's a lot of baggage in America, and that's like a lot of people don't get. Like, I've talked to people from all over the world. I've talked to Mongolians and Iraqis and Russians and French and people from Central America. I just I talked to there was a Brit. I was talking to a Brit truck driver. He ended up his family came from. He was like 22. He came here when he was 17. So he's like British by birth. I don't know what his family ended up doing in Arkansas, but he was from Arkansas and just asking kind of like about America, about this North Carolina and stuff like that. It's like told him, get the good barbecue with the vinegar based sauce. Don't if they give you mustard based or the tomato based, ketchup based sauce, don't you dare eat that. That's a bad food. That's real bad. And like to actually talk about that stuff, and it's good to discuss with because, like I said, if you keep it taboo, nothing will change. No discussion. Sometimes it's not going to be pretty but you have to know that going into it. You have to accept that fact that sometimes emotions get fired up, and as long as you kind of keep her cool and not let not kind of debase yourself until like this kind of like let the animalistic passion take over. You can overcome it and you can learn from the experience, and it's good. Like, learning's good, and it's like, but it's just it's actually good to have a nice cool conversation with a cool person,
Yeah,
who's doing
this
cool things.
was pretty fun.
Yeah, it's like that's why I want to just have you solo, so just unfiltered, unfettered, uh, and just raw, like sugar.
Right. It's just
But
like I'm like a lot better if it's like this me and like um than like one other person.
yeah,
Like three is okay, four is okay, but like once you get to five and six, then
it gets I found
yeah,
that out the hard way. Like if even if you're all on the same wavelength, because sometimes it's like you're not listening when the person's talking, you're waiting for your turn to speak,
right.
and that right there, it's like it's not very beneficial. I found that out. It's like, yeah, maybe we need to pare it down. Like I found that out the other night with the weekly geek out, but where we had like five people on, and everybody was like, blah, 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 blah. It was like all over the place. But yeah, but thank you again, and
Oh, no problem.
and we'll catch you next time.
Yep. Bye.